This Goodyear 400 betting picks edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy picker for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, NASCAR, F1, and more. Sign up today at UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code RACESGPN to get a 100% deposit match.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He is Cody, all the way thrown back Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. It is, of course, Darlington, baby. We are throwback weekend. And as you can see on the YouTube, Cody has fully embraced throwback weekend to the fullest, my friends. There is the Miller Lite jacket that he's got on, the Valvoline hat, Ricky Rudd hat. Cody, dare I say, you look spectacular for this episode.
Yes, Joe Gibbs Racing decided no throwbacks this year for some reason, Rod, but not on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. We're throwing it back. I'll have a variety of at least hats. I don't. This jacket is fucking warm. I don't know. And Rod showing off his Jimmy Johnson. That's his throwback. Jimmy Johnson. I know he still races, but it really is the throwback to when he actually raced.
That low scheme. I missed that low scheme. I'm sorry, but I want that.
One of the last cars that was. I mean, really like that car. And Denny with FedEx, right? The last car that kind of the same sponsor each and every week, like old school NASCAR was, and it's not that way anymore. But that's okay, Rod. We're throwing it back anyways. Chat was lighting up early. Walter in the chat earlier on today, a few hours ago. Pumped for Darlington. Favorite race. Just wish it was a night race. Can't wait to see you guys at 5 p.m. Here we are. And what your thoughts are? Keith was holding a 60-1. Let's all take a moment of silence for Keith losing his 60-1 on Buescher by 0.001. 3 inches, Rod. His wife says, "You're mad. How do you think he feels?" I said, "He don't need the money. I do." Yeah, well, next time your wife complains about size, tell her it's just 3 inches. What are you mad about?
We already said that the 3-inch thing was going to be in play, so it definitely comes back to rear its ugly head. Listen, so this is a fantastic track, right? I mean, the track Too Tough to Tame, the Lady in Black, like there's a million names for this track, and none of them paint a good picture as to how it feels to drive this 1.3 mile track, and we'll obviously get into it later. But here's the thing. You want to talk about comp tracks? There are none. I can't comp a track to Darlington. Like, you can comp size, but you cannot comp the way this track handles and the way that it races.
Yeah, it is. It really, truly is its own beast. And we expect some pretty good racing. We expected good racing last week at Kansas. Expected again this week. It's a similar style to Kansas, where it is, an older intermediate track. It's more worn out. It provides good racing, but it's slightly smaller and it's shaped differently. So your car's going to handle different in 1 and 2 than it does in 3 and 4. We had to build around the minnow pond, of course, Rod, when the track was built. So that's what gives it the egg shape. This is a place that gives you good racing each and every time. It's called the track Too Tough to Tame. It's called the Lady in Black for a reason. And I think that we're going to see plenty of that reason as guys get their Darlington stripes this weekend.
Indeed. But before we get into that, let me ask you, you're a hardcore baseball fan or just a degenerate sitting in an office looking for some afternoon action? if you're listening to this right now, you definitely are one of those for sure. Either way, you'll want to check out and make sure to subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast wherever you get your podcast. Baseball season in full swing, and our guys at the MLB Podcast have you covered for all of your DGen action. So if NASCAR is not enough for you, which, we understand. Everybody likes different things. So make sure you head over to the MLB Gambling Podcast to scratch the rest of that itch that we weren't able to scratch for you. So, all right, Cody, again, it is the Darlington Raceway. It is the track too tough to tame. You get your Darlington stripes and you get them handed out plenty. The spring race, as we know, it is a 293 lap around this 1.366 mile paved track for 400.238 miles. The reason, and as we start to handicap this, right, the reason that I'm mainly looking at the Darlington spring races is that they're 400. The fall races, extra 100 miles. So we always talk about it. It's a huge difference.
Massive difference. I'm going to point that out multiple times as I talk about drivers today that for whatever reason are better in the spring, whatever the combination of things may be. There's going to be kind of more upset top 10s and types of things in the fall rather than there is in the spring. Because you get that extra 100 miles, that's going to come into play in a couple of weeks at Charlotte. We're going to hammer on that home, that extra, it's a 600-mile race. So when you go from like 400 at Kansas last week to now 600, it makes a big difference, right? So the spring race is definitely different than the fall race here. So keep that in mind as you're looking back at things. You can use it, obviously, as far as full track pictures. And we've only got 4 races at this track, like everywhere else, basically. So you may have to look at it some, but there is a marked difference between the spring race and the fall race. So just make sure you keep that in mind kind of as you go. And going to be something that we touch on because it really, a lot of, Kansas spring and fall, there's not a ton of difference. The weather might be a little different, although it's kind of cooler for both usually, or could be hot because it's the Midwest. So who really knows, right? But the distance is the same. Not a ton of other stuff changes. Here, it's a lot different because 100 extra miles on this type of track is a crazy difference.
Well, again, and it's not quite a short track, and it's not quite a mile and a half. It's that, it's I'm not a girl, not yet a woman from the Britney Spears world of things. If you're old enough to catch that reference, it's just sort of in between, right? And then, like you said, the minnow pond throws a whole thing in it because now you got a different shape that the corners take into it, and these guys, they can carry a lot of speed up into that turn, into that last turn, and then whack up against the wall. It's, you gotta really baby this around some of these corners and then open it up around the rest. So, I mean, it makes for very, very, like you said, interesting racing, fun racing, and it's just not fun for these guys. Chris saying, "What's up, guys? I hope all is well." Cody, nice hat. I was there the year he won the Brickyard 400. Oh wow.
There you go. That's a good story to have. I was trying to find it really fast, but you talked too fast, Rod.
Oh, my bad.
Which year did Ricky Rudd win the Brickyard 400? I'll let you guess, Rod. What year do you think it was?
Ricky
Rudd started in 94, so not prior to that, of course.
I'm gonna have to say 98.
Whoa, really close. 1997, he won the Brickyard 400 in the Tide car, the number 10. That's a pretty great thing. So it was a pit road fuel mileage race. But yeah, it won the upset race victory at the Brickyard. Of course, we're returning to the Brickyard, the actual oval this season.
Thank God.
Later on this year, which would be great. I'm so excited for that race when we get there. But first things first, Rod, Darlington did have a bit of news drop today. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to be making his return, not to racing, don't worry, but to the broadcast booth. We kind of already knew this, but it's official. He will be on Amazon Prime and TNT next season. So yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the extent of it. Is he's going to be in the booth there. So news we sort of knew, but officially official now, Rod.
Worst kept secret.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really the extent of any news that we have right now, unless you're paying attention in the IndyCar world, where Tim Cindric was suspended today by Roger Penske, won't be at the Indianapolis 500. People are calling for his head. If he gets fired, there could be repercussions in that number 2 car as well.
Man, that world of Indy cars.
That's a thing for a different pod.
I was gonna say
we'll have to touch that on an F1 pod at some point, I think.
That's a soap opera that is very soapy and very opera-y. So, although I can't wait to do the recap for the F1 race, we have new stuff to talk about, so we'll definitely do that as well.
That's going to be a hell of a recap for sure.
I know, because we have to wait another week for Spain, but we'll get there. All right, for Italy, I mean not Spain, Italy. Yeah. Anyways, that's another pod. Let's go commercial free, shall we, as we make our picks. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy. The NBA playoffs are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting. Underdog is literally the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and so much more. And of course, in the world of racing, it's better than or worse than the projected finishing position of the drivers. You can make entries of all just basketball if that's what you choose, or mix and match across all of your other favorite sports like NASCAR, like F1. And you can win up to 100 times your money. Plus, it's a ton of fun. I'm telling you right now, if you're a new customer, you get a Pick'em special in the lobby when you sign up. So make sure you go grab it, that Pick'em special. Underdog's going to be running a ton of different promos. They got bonus cash airdrops, specials, giveaways, and so much more throughout the NBA playoffs. So make sure to follow at Underdog Picks on Twitter to keep an eye out. Underdog is available in 30 plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. Plus, they just launched their champions, their player versus player format in Florida. Make sure you sign up with our promo code RACESGPN. Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code RACESGPN. Well, Cody, as we get set for Throwback Weekend, hopefully we're throwing a lot of money back in your pocket this week as we get those tickets cashed for you. Before we get started, I do want to say this. So I know, and I don't know, I don't know your betting habits, and we're never here to tell you your betting habits, but consider this show, if this is maybe your first time stumbling upon it, maybe you never listened to our show before, this show, consider it more like a buffet. Right. We are laying out all of the food that we've prepared for you, and you may choose to have one or two. You may choose to have it all, but consider this all just sort of something for you to pick and choose from. I mean, you don't go up to a buffet and put everything on the plate and say, and then get mad at the buffet when you eat it all. Right. No, I mean, listen, you basically take what you want from it, go back and enjoy it. And then if you want more, you come back later. So these bets are more of just a buffet for you. It's more just options for you to choose from and to put on your plate. If you don't like it, take it off your plate or throw it away. I don't care. When we give it to you, we don't care what you do with it after that, right? This is just information for you to try to set up your betting cards and be a little more informed. That's all there is.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I love it. Nick Ford and saying, Cody rocking out the NASCAR jacket. Where is mine?
Show him your shirt, Rod. He's got the throwback to the Lowe's Jimmy Johnson era there. So throw him back to the GOAT. He's got the t-shirt on at least.
Before Jimmy Johnson went gray like me. These were the days when we had hair that was not silver. That's all there is to it. So all right, Cody, should we start setting up the buffet for these folks?
Let's get to the buffet, Rod. If you know me, you know I don't like to miss a good buffet. Let's start with the entry list real quick. No open cars entered into this one, so just 36 Cup Series cars. Kaz Gralla is back in the 15. Derek Kraus, hashtag chasing trophies, back in the 16 car. Eric Jones is listed on the entry list for the 43 car. The intention as of last week is for Eric Jones to be in this race, Rod. I'm not 100% convinced that Eric Jones will be in this race. His betting odds are available. We'll talk about him today. Again, stay tuned because I think that there's not a 0% chance that could change as we go later on into the week, but we'll see. This is going to be, and we'll talk about it kind of because there is a bet on him in this show, so we'll talk about it there. But it's a tough place to come back for your first race, especially with the back injury like that. So we'll see how it goes. But as of right now, the plan is for Eric Jones to be back in the 43 car at one of his best tracks, if not his best track, Rod. So maybe that's why you try to come back here and do it, because he absolutely loves Darlington.
Indeed, yeah. And again, I'll touch more on him later. Spoiler alert: the bet is mine, so I will expand on that as well. All right, Cody, let's get these guys' plates full.
Yes, Rod. I would hurry up and get this bet placed quicker rather than later. Caesars. So first of all, Caesars, they just make the app worse every week. I think there's a guy that's paid to make it worse every single week. So you don't have to go to the speakeasy now to find the Caesars finishing positions. But when you click on the finishing positions tabs on the app, it shows you the finishing position, but it doesn't show you the driver. So you have to click on, click like you're going to place the bet, and then go into the open bet tab to see who the actual driver is for that bet. Again, what are we doing here, Caesars? But anyways, they do have a nice number over there, Rod. Chris Buescher, under 13.5, minus 130. Look, his top 10 number is minus 120. I was about to take that. Excuse me. You're getting an extra 3 spots for 10 more points. Yes, please sign me up. Minus 130 is a little bit juiced, but I was already going to pay minus 120 for top 10. Now you're getting a top 13 basically at minus 130. So I would get in on that quicker rather than later. Really, Rod, you saw it last week is most of the argument on this, right? He came out fast. He showed some speed. You remember what happened last season when he got all those wins? They were all in a very short period of time. He caught fire. Maybe he's one of those streaky drivers as well. He came out and did it last week. There's nothing that tells me he's not going to come out and do it this week. So I think you need to get in on it. He was third last spring. Last fall, rather. Nice, strong run. Again, the extra 100 miles. 10th in the spring. Again, both of those, check this box and take it off, right? 2022, not very nice to him in the first set of races in the next-gen car. But again, RFK was still newer then. Brad was still kind of getting things. I mean, RFK's been around a long time as Roush Fenway, but it was now RFK with the Keselowski part of things. A lot of changes, figuring out the new car. They got off to a slow start. Really good last season. And if you go back to 2021 in the old car, 9th place in both races. So that's 4 top 10s in the last 6 races here for Chris Buescher. Coming off of last weekend, I think that this is a great spot to get in on him, and I would do it early in the week. If you don't have the finishing position options, I would take the top 10. I think that's fine. That was originally the bet I had written down until I was like, well, get these extra 3 spots for basically the same price. Go in that direction. But Chris Buescher, under 13.5, so that'd be to finish better than 13.5, minus 130 over on Caesars.
I 1,000% agree with you, to the point where I will actually continue that argument later on in the episode as well. But I mean, yeah, you saw it last week. And honestly, that is the upside of a guy like Buescher, the type of run that he put together last week. And we know that RFK, when they click well, and they click well together. So yeah, definitely with you on this one. And I love the fact that it's 13.5, because you're right. You do get those extra spaces to play with, and for a price that's not really that far off of his top 10 price. So I love it. Like I said, I'll build on that later. But first I want to pick on Michael McDowell. I don't want to pick on you, Michael. I want to have a beer with you. Like that's, I want to have a beer with you, but I just don't know that this race is going to be the one that you're going to be in a good mood after you finish. His finishing position over there in the not so speakeasy anymore is 20.5. This was at minus 115. And I know what you're saying, like for Michael McDowell to have a top 20 finish, Rod, that's kind of crazy. He's a guy that can get it done, right? He can have top 15 finishes for sure. Like, I get it. I understand. But here's the thing about Michael McDowell in Darlington. His average finish on this track, 26.8. His average start, 22. So he's not even finishing better than he starts. He's literally finishing worse than he starts almost each and every time he's on this track. I will read off to you how many times he's had a finish better than 20.5. In 2017, in the fall race, he had a 19th place finish. Of course, this is the fall race. That's the extra 100 miles. In the next race in 2018, a 20th place finish. Then you got to go all the way to 2020 for a 17th and a 16th place finish in 2020. Kind of a weird year that year. But here's the thing. The 4 of the last 6 in 2021, 27th place in the spring race. In 2021 in the fall, 37th. Now, here's a couple of good races that are skewing his next gen numbers. Okay. So in 2022 in the spring, he had a 7th place finish. In the fall, he had a 6th place finish, right? That's fantastic. But last year he crashed out of both races here at Darlington. 33rd place finish, and a 32nd place finish. So, like, again, if you're keeping track, there have been several bad finishes for Michael McDowell on this track, and the good finishes not really making up for the fact that he's been finishing poorly on this track altogether. Well, let's turn to this season. All right. 23.8 is his average finish this season. At Las Vegas, 25th. I know this is a mile and a half. It's not, again, there's no comp tracks here. So I can't necessarily say this is a 1-for-1, right? Martinsville, 21st. Richmond, 22nd. Texas, 35th, right? The last 4 finishes in a row have been 35th, 31st, 36th. Now, granted, I think what the books are trying to do to you is point you in the direction of his 10th place finish last week. But if you were paying attention, that was a lot of strategy and a lot of luck for him to get that 10th place finish. So he wasn't running there all day. He started 8th, but he still fell back and was not necessarily in the mix for a lot of it. So I don't think that 10th place finish signals that he's arrived in any way, shape, or form. Even that 11th place at Bristol and the 8th place at Phoenix, kind of throwing those out too, because more often than not, Michael McDowell has not been a top 20 driver. So I'm going to just lean on his average finishing position. I'm going to lean on the fact that he's just on the teeter cusp of speed rankings here on this track in the top 20. And I mean, he's like 19th in total speed rankings. And he's too close to 20th for me to not take the other side of this. So I'm going to take Michael McDowell over 20.5, which means he's going to finish worse than 20th. And I'm going to take that at minus 115.
You better hope that he doesn't listen to this show, Rod, because otherwise he will retweet this and call you out if you're on the wrong side of it. I don't know if you saw that. Dirty Modo posted a clip because they hammered I think it was the same thing. It was 20.5 last week. And they're like, oh, this is the bet of the week. Hammer it, all this stuff. And they clipped it and put it on social media. And after the race, McDowell quote tweeted it. I was like, damn, that's pretty funny, actually. So I kind of wish some drivers would quote tweet us when we got things wrong, just because it's kind of hilarious. But
hey,
yeah, exactly. No arguments for what you said. I agree with everything. Man, he's been so up and down and pretty inconsistent. And they've not really showed a ton of speed, especially, you got that, they come out and they open the season with 2 great super speedway races and everybody overreacts, which we were told you don't overreact to that. Right. And then they announced the Penske partnership. It's like, oh my God. Well, now he's running where Joey Logano's running every week for Penske, and it's not better than 20.5. So, yeah, I like it. Sam pointing out Buescher under 13.5 is even money. That's the same as the top 10. That's what we're looking for, right? That is what we're looking for. I'm just confused as to if I was looking at the wrong one, because there's 3 13.5s and you can't see which driver's which. So maybe I looked at the wrong one, but it is plus 100, not minus 130. So even better, Rod. And that's a better number than I saw, although I don't remember if I checked his top 10 number here on Caesars, what it is. I guess he is even money on Caesars. So, but I do like, obviously if you're getting the same number at even money at plus 100 for 13, better than 13th instead of top 10. So definitely go that way. Thanks for pointing that out, Sam. That's why we appreciate these guys in the live chat. Love it. Keep it coming. Maybe I should check and make sure I got the right number on this one, Rod. Next up for me, I'm going to go over to Mr. William Byron. They've got him set at 6.5. I'm going to take the under on him as well. So to finish better than 6.5, basically a top 6 for William Byron, minus 115 over on Caesars. Won this race last spring, Rod. Ended up finishing 4th here in the fall, 8th and 13th in the first season of the next gen car. Now the last couple of weeks, right? Not been good. 23rd at Kansas, but they were fast in practice, right? Then I think it was qualifying where he scuffed the wall. Bad start, kind of just never recovered. 33rd at Dover. I don't even remember what happened to him at Dover, but he started 3rd, led some laps, and then I think he got caught up in something. So, but before that, Rod, 7th at Talladega was good. 3rd at Texas, 1st at Martinsville, 7th at Richmond, 1st at Coda. Like, he had a good, strong run of solid finishes. We've had the conversation. Is William Byron the better driver? Now we're 2 bad weeks. Let's not overreact too much to William Byron here. He's been really good at this track, won this race last spring. I think he's going to show up and be fast this weekend. Don't need him to win it, just be a top 6 car. And other than the last 2 weeks where he's run into some issues, he's in general, pretty good about being there at the end, even if he's, hanging out 10th to 15th all day, he'll find his way up into the top 10 and then close to the top 5, maybe get that 6th place finish for you. Even if he's not having a great day, which he could also come out and lead every single lap and dominate this race too, right? Because we know that Byron can do that. So William Byron under 6.5 minus 115 on Caesars.
I will talk more about him later as well. I know the thing about this race too, unfortunately, it's more chalky as well. A lot like the truck race last weekend. There's going to be some value somewhere on there, but if you look at the leaderboards from the last several spring races, it really does read like the same names, just in different positions. And trying to pick a winner from this is almost impossible for me, because I looked back on the winners of these spring races, right? You had Byron, who won the spring race last year. You had Logano, who won a couple of years ago. You had Truex, who won the year before that. Then you had Denny Hamlin, who won the year before that. Then you had Eric Jones, who actually he won the spring. Then you had Kevin Harvick, who won here in 2020. So like it's just a smorgasbord of people. Like, it's not the same person coming out and dominating. So but we'll talk about Byron again in a second. I'm going to take one. The only reason why I'm taking this side of this is it's plus money. And what we saw the last time that Martin Truex Jr. was out on the track could happen to him again. Gremlins could definitely steal him. And even though he leads 145 laps of a race, it doesn't matter, right? You smack the wall once and you're toast. So that's what happened to Truex last time when he was started on the pole. Looked like he could have ended up winning this race. He didn't. So they've got Superbook has him matched up with Tyler Reddick. And I think most of the books have this matchup as well, but Superbook has this at plus money. Plus 105 for Tyler Reddick to finish better than Martin Truex Jr. In this particular race. It's kind of a weak case to be made, but again, because it is a plus money bet, I'm sort of taking it here, right? Reddick does better in the fall for sure, right? He finished second here last year in the 500-mile race there, but he started 9th, finished 22nd in the spring, so that was not good for him. Finished 3rd in the fall of 2022. However, he was runner-up in the spring race of 2022. So, a kind of a good run there for the 8. So he's definitely good on this track in particular. Whereas, Martin Truex Jr., obviously, we talked about it. He led 145 laps of that spring race, crashed out, finished 33rd. The 3 of his last 4 races on this track in particular have not gone particularly well for him at all, right? He crashed out of the spring race in 2022. He led 28 laps in that. That's fantastic. He started 4th, ended up finishing 24th in that. Water pump kicked him out of the fall race of 2022, 17th place. He finished 37th, but he led 48 laps. And then, of course, like we talked about, started first in that spring race of 2023, ended up tapping the wall, blew his whole day out, finished 34th. And then in the fall, just couldn't really recover, started 31st, ended up finishing 18 in that one. So it's not to say that Martin Truex Jr. can't win this race. And believe me, we'll talk about this in a second as well. I highly believe that Martin Truex Jr. probably can win this race, but if anything happens and he takes himself out of this race, then I think Reddick stands to benefit from that. And Reddick doesn't even have to have a top 5 day. He could have a top 10 day if Truex decides to have a any sort of mistake to take Truex out of this, and Reddick benefits. So like I said, the plus money side of this kind of makes me lean toward this side of it. I can honestly say if you wanted to take the other side of this, it's like minus 115 on the other side of this. You can, but I don't know. I'm prepping for a little bit of chaos in this bet.
This is a tough one, man. I don't know. I'm going to make a counterpoint to all of the points you just made on Truex here in a few minutes, Rod, on a bet that I've got on him. But I get his finishes have been shit in the next-gen car at Darlington, if we're going to just be straight up honest. So I understand taking against him in a head-to-head because of that. But I don't know if you've seen Tyler Reddick's pit crew or the other pianos that fall out of the sky for him. So it could go either way. But, hard for me to pick a side. I do have a case for Truex here in a little bit, though. A guy that I have a case for also, Rod, Alex Bowman, top 10 plus 160. Look, if they're just going to keep giving us this every week, we're just going to keep taking it every week. Bowman is one of the more consistent guys in the series. It's always going to be top 10. I know he's not as fast as his teammates. I know that he's in a really good car and he's not capitalizing like they are, but he shows up and he runs good every week. Rod, 7th at Kansas, 8th at Dover, 5th at Talladega, had a 37th at Texas in there, right? Had some issues early. 8th place at Martinsville, top 10 at 7 of 12 races so far this season. I'm going to continue to ride that wave with Alex Bowman. He had a 10th place finish in the fall of 2022 here, Rod. He's only got 3 starts in the next gen car because he missed last spring when he was out with his back injury. And he did wreck in the other 2 races. So you've got that part of it hanging back there, but plus 160, I'll take the shot that he doesn't wreck. If he doesn't wreck, I think he's going to be in the top 10, definitely in contention like he has been all season. So yeah, I think again, and then there's a couple of spots this week where guys don't have a ton of great finishes lately, and I think that's holding their number back, but I'm willing to take the risk because you're getting a good number on it for a guy that's done it 7 to 12 times this season, has been pretty consistently running in the top 10. Look, at this point, I think we understand it's all about Joe Gibbs, it's all about Hendrick. These, and there's 8 cars between the 2 of them, that's a lot, but most of them are going to kind of be up in the mix for these top 10 finishes. Plus 160, I think is a great number on Bowman. So Alex Bowman, top 10, plus 160.
I love it, and I'm going to add on to that top 10. This is one where, again, you need to keep an eye out as to the news and to figure out who's going to be in that 43 car this week, because if it's Eric Jones, kind of like Cody said at the outset of the show, right? We don't know if Eric Jones is going to be in this race in particular, but Eric Jones, not really that bad on this track altogether. Now, his days in the 43 have not been kind to him. Finishes of 18th, 32nd, 25th, but he did win the fall race of this in 2022, 25th and 10th. Eric Jones may be better in the fall than he is in the spring. However, I do believe that Eric Jones is capable on this track of getting a top 10 finish like he did in the 20 car back in the days when he was dominating out there at 8th place in 2020 and 2018. 2019, he won this race. In the spring of 2020, he got an 8th place finish here, and then another 5th place finish in the other one. 2020, another 4th place finish. So he is, I don't know, he's definitely capable of doing it. I think the only reason that I kind of went with this more than anything was a plus 120 on this one. The top 10 odds, outside of a few of them, like Cody was saying, not really all that great. I want to read you off a few of them, right? Denny Hamlin, minus 500. Kyle Larson, minus 500. William Byron, minus 350. Like, honestly, you're getting down into the Ryan Blaney before you're into anything tolerable at minus 110, right? Joey Logano, minus 110. Chris Buescher flips on the plus money side of it for plus 100. Bubba Wallace, plus 110. So, like, and then once you get down into the Stenhouses, the McDowells, and the Cindricks and the Nemecheks, like, you don't want to touch any of these guys, and they're the juicier ones. So I think for a guy that's been able to finish in the top 10 on this track, still at plus money. Again, like you said, he's coming around, he's coming back. He likes this track for whatever reason. So I think maybe, just maybe, he'll be able to keep it clean enough to get himself inside of the top 10. It's a long shot top 10 from not at a long shot price.
Boji Joe making my argument for me here, Rod. He has a broken back. Man, I don't know. I love betting Eric Jones at Darlington. He's a guy I circle every time. He's only plus 120. It's not even a good number. He's maybe getting back in the car this weekend. Then he's going to go out on one of the toughest tracks. I know he's really good here, but Chase Elliott's really good everywhere, and look at how he was when he came back from his injury. Alex Bowman was leading the points, and then he broke his back. Look how he was when he came back from the injury. We just haven't seen these guys come out and be good after their injuries. I don't know that he's going to be top 10 at Darlington. What, 2 weeks? What did he's missed 2 weeks? So 3 weeks ago at Talladega, broke his back. He missed Dover and Kansas. He's going to be back already. I just can't pull the trigger at this low of a number, Rod. I wanted to. One of the first things I looked at when these came out was, where's Eric Jones? Because if he's that big enough number, I'm sort of thinking maybe he doesn't do well this time, and then we come back in the fall, which I think I'd have to look again, but I feel like he's better in the fall. And I hope maybe we get a better number then on him when he's more healed up, hopefully. But I don't know. If you want to do it, great, but can't pull the trigger this week. That will be the broccoli section of the buffet that I think I'm going to pass on this week.
What if I put enough cheese sauce on it that it masks the broccoli taste?
Got to listen to the whole show, right? So Boji Joe saying Rod is right about Jones, just the back, and that's exact. I mean, really, exactly how I feel. You're absolutely right about Jones. He's great here, one of his best tracks. But the back, man, that's what hurts it. So I don't know if I can do it, but what I can do, Rod, Noah Gragson top 10 plus 225. What did I say with Alex Bowman? They're going to keep giving it to us. Take it, Rod. So that's pretty much the case here. 3 in a row. I'm pretty sure we've been on it all 3 times in a row, maybe at least 2 of the 3. He cashed a ton of bets for us a couple weeks ago. Go back and look. I didn't even look, honestly, didn't even look at what he's done here in the Cup Series, Rod, because I don't care. It doesn't matter. So he could have won. Well, I would have known if he won the races, but he could have run well. He could have run bad. I don't even have any idea because it doesn't matter. 7 Xfinity Series starts here, Rod. 8th place in his first one, then 5th, 7th, 4th, 1st, 2nd, 1st. Led 40 laps and at least 40 laps in 6 of those 8 races. Some of them were much more than 40 laps. So been really good here in Xfinity. And he's been really good this season in the Cup Series as well. Rumors are continuing to swirl, right? It looks like SHR is trying to dump 2 of these charters, and we've kind of known that for a while, but it seems like that's heating up even more. Chase Briscoe's staying. I don't think there's any question about that. So you've got 3 other guys. I don't think Priest has a chance. So I think really it's between Barry and Gragson. A lot of the rumors are they're keeping Barry. I don't know why they would do that. What I've seen from Gragson has been much more impressive. Smaller sample size, right? But you got to keep riding this streak with Gragson while he's hot. So still getting him at plus 225. Not as sexy as some of the numbers we've had the past weeks, right? They're kind of getting a little better. I noticed his top 4 numbers down to like plus 850 now, where it's not, we hit it, 26-1 a couple weeks ago. It was like 12-1 last week where we just missed out on it. But I think he can find his way back into the top 10 this weekend. Plus 225 is still a good number for a guy who's riding a hot streak and really has everything to prove right now, potentially racing for whatever his next ride is next season, whether it's one of those teams that buys that charter or a different team somewhere else, whatever the case may be, or Stuart Haas as well, if he's one of the 2 that they keep, if that's how things go down.
26th in the spring race of last year, but he was in the 42 car as a rookie. So yeah, you definitely can't count that. He's definitely made a jump this year to be a much better driver. So yeah, I mean, look, if we're going to keep getting Noah Gragson top 10s at plus money at even 2-1s, yeah, I think you have to continue to take it until it bites you in the ass. All right. You made a case earlier for Buescher to be better than 13.5 or under, right? Whatever the wordage is. I'm not here to be a wordsmith. I'm just here to give you bets. But yeah, Buescher definitely inside of the top 13. And I think Buescher definitely inside of the top 10, which I still can't believe is the same price for this to be under 13.5 and also top 10 at plus 100. I don't get it. So I'm going to take both Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney. I'm going to combine their powers and put them both inside of the top 10. This comes in at plus 320 for you. Talked about what Ryan Blaney's number is for a top 10 finish by himself, right? And that's minus 110. And then Chris Buescher is at plus 100. So you are going to get both of those cars inside of the top 10 at plus 320. You made the case for Buescher earlier, right? Especially here on this track. 4 of his last 6 have been inside of the top 10, including those 2 9th places in 2021, and then the 10th place finish in the spring of 2023, and the 3rd place in the fall as well. You coming off of a strong 2nd place run here, 2nd place at Phoenix, right? 9th place at Richmond. So getting inside of the top 10s here for the better part of this season. So I think he can do it here again on this track as well. As far as Ryan Blaney is concerned, his last 2 races on this track in 2023 are both 9th place finishes in the spring and in the fall. And in fact, he led 4 laps in that spring race of 2023. He does have 3 top 10 finishes in his career here, so it's not something he does often, but he was 13th place in the fall of 2022. He started on the pole in 2021 in the fall, ended up finishing 22nd, but in the spring of 2022, started in 7th place, ended up 17th. Not really good for him there as well. But like I said, the last 2 races he's run here have been top 10 finishes. He finished 3rd place, did Ryan Blaney at Las Vegas, 5th place at Phoenix. A good solid run there. 5th place at Martinsville, 7th at Dover. So in and around, right, the top 10 for most of these tracks that are close to the shape and close to the size of what Darlington is. So yeah, I think he can get in the top 10. had a good run going too at Kansas, a place where he's not necessarily all that good. He had a top 10 run going until the very end there when he ended up finishing 12th. So, I mean, if he can peek his head out and try to do it at Kansas like that, I think Darlington might be a good call from there. So I'm putting both Buescher and Blaney inside of the top 10 plus 320 over there on Caesars. Brian checking in late to the party. Just wanted to jump and say hi. Also go MJT. We'll get there for sure. Boji Joe saying, how in the hell did Buescher get that finish 2 days ago? Pixie dust, man. Sprinkle the pixie dust.
They found something for sure. So he wants to know also, same car, same track, who wins, Ty or Noah? Trying to make us choose one or the other. Ty Gibbs is by far the more talented driver than, I mean, probably just straight up driving talent. Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs is probably how I would rank the top three. You got Hamlin and Busch obviously in the conversation, I think, there as well. But Gibbs is a very talented driver. Gregson is as well. But Gibbs is you maybe called that sophomore slump a few weeks ago, Rod, because it seems to have continued. So maybe the heat you took for that wasn't quite what it should have been. So oh well, hopefully he gets off that soon. But all right, Rod, we're gonna break out the car lift. We're bringing it back this week, because there is a guy that I absolutely love this week. That guy, Mr. Chase Elliott, the number 9 car. We're going to ride the car lift, Rod. We're going to start with the top 5 finish, plus 250. Top 3 finish, plus 500. To be the top finishing Chevrolet at plus 650. Win the race 16-1. Look, Rod, we talked earlier about how there's a difference in the spring race and there's a difference in the fall race. Well, let's look at the spring races. 3rd last season. 5th in 2022, so in the 2 spring races with the next-gen car, both inside the top 5. You go back before that, 7th place in 2021. And then in 2020, we had 2 May races because we were coming back from COVID. But in the first one, he finished in 4th place. Actually, maybe should have won that race. Got spun out late by Kevin Harvick there. Recovers for 4th. So he has been really, really solid. But then, Rod, I've talked in the past about how streaky of a driver he is. How about this for being a streaky driver? 3rd at Kansas, 5th at Dover, tossing a 15th at Dega, right? We're going to toss that out. 1 Texas, 3rd at Martinsville, 5th at Richmond. 5 top 5 finishes in a row if you take Talladega out of there, which is a super speedway. So we're going to take it out, right? So non-super speedway races, 5 top 5 finishes in a row. You're still getting him plus 250. He's been good here in the spring in the past. His teammate won the spring race last season. Chase Elliott's going to show up this weekend. So love riding him. His top 10 numbers, pretty juicy. It's like minus 160, minus 220 in some places. So probably hard to get in on that, but we'll just start at the top 5 at plus 250, top 3, top Chevy, and to win the race 16-1. Love some Chase Elliott this weekend.
Yeah, and for real, that was one of the guys I was leaning heavy on until I realized that, I knew you were probably going to end up taking him, so I left him to you, and I'm glad because you took the whole car.
You know me too well, Rob.
I do. I was like, I got to leave him because he's a name that stands out on this track, and he's due. He's really due. Really due for all of this to happen in this whole box and this whole car lift to actually get there. I love it. All right, I'm going to go with the winner of stage 1 to win this race. And I'll tell you right now, the thing that you really look at last year, right? William Byron won this race, but he did not win stage 1 in this race. In fact, it was Martin Truex Jr. But Martin Truex Jr. had led that first stage, and he probably could have ended up winning that race had he not slapped himself out, right? I mean, he led 145 laps of 293. Granted, so many of those were at the beginning of that race, right? He jumped out to the lead and won that pretty much entire 137 laps that he did. But you look at the person that led the next set of laps afterwards, it jumped from Blaney to Bubba to Truex again, to Chastain to Larson to Chastain to Hendrick, Harvick rather. There was so many people that led laps in that. Right. And there was all like 1s and 2s, and nobody had that dominant run other than maybe Ross Chastain for 45 laps between 2:03 and 2:47. So, but other than that, it was sort of a smattering of other people. If Truex had not kind of hurt himself earlier in that race, he may have ended up just dominating the rest of it and winning, as opposed to finishing way back where he did. So I'm thinking that was an instance where he could have won stage one, and he could have ended up winning the race as well. You look back at 2022, Joey Logano won this race. Joey Logano was the winner of stage one in this race as well. Then you look at 2022 in this race. It was Martin Truex Jr. who won the race. Martin Truex Jr. not only won stage one, he won stage two in this race and ended up winning 248 laps. He led of this race in the spring. Just an outstandingly dominating run from him. So I think we're in for, two of the last three races on this have been won in the spring by the stage one winner. So I like the odds of that happening again. Like I said, last year, probably just an outlier because of the fact that Truex hurt himself. But more often than not, the person that wins the first stage in the last few years has been the one that has won this race. So keep an eye on that one. So I'm getting this at plus 240, the winner of stage one to win the race. So that's definitely one that's on my radar.
Yeah, no arguments from me here. I think there could be a guy that's fast early, keeps himself in position, and gets it done. I think you're getting a good number on it. So I like it. Brian said he did get Chase Elliott at 18-1 yesterday over on Bovada. So shout out to him for that. King checking in, our one of our resident Ty Gibbs fans, top 5 all day with the angry face, put in the back with idiots on strategy, got wrecked. It's taken him 2 days to lower his blood pressure. I'm glad you've gotten it under control. Hopefully he'll snap out of it. This could be a good race for Ty. It was hard to find any way to bet on him this weekend, but definitely going to be a guy to keep an eye on every week. So I like that. Boji Joe saying, listen up, Chase Elliott car lift, place your bets, then go shopping. Also says give him Austin Dillon. I think not many people are really going to agree with you on that. John also in the chat, what's up, fellas? And Jessica as well. She's been commenting, so I didn't want to overlook her. Shout out to Jessica. Listen on the X. All right, Rod. If Chase Elliott doesn't get it done at 16-1, we've got a couple of other winner options. One of those winner options is Martin Truex Jr. at 7-1. This is another week where you go to the top of the board, you can make the case, right, for any of these guys. The Hamlin's for sure right here. Larson, if he's going to start catching fire, watch out. But I like Truex because it's a little bit of a bigger number, but he's very capable of doing it, right? So let's look at his finishes in the next-gen car here, Rod. 18th, 31st, 31st, and 24th. And you want me to tell you to bet on him, right? But I think our guy Ryan over at iFantasy Race laid this all out perfectly. So I'm just going to read everything that he said because I can't say it much better myself. So Martin Truex Jr. at Darlington, 2023. The set in the fall, 18th place. Don't read into it. Got into the wall during practice and qualifying. Opted not to repair, thinking things were fine. They weren't. Unexpected pit stop for a loose wheel while running 15th on lap 155. 2023 in the spring, 31st. Arguably the best car. Won stage one. Spun out while battling for the stage in lead for the lead in stage two. Led 145 laps. Crashed at the end while running in third place. 2022, this in the fall race. 31st, had a water pump issue late, led 48 laps that day. 2022 in the first race in the spring. 24th, led 28 laps, finished 5th in stage 1, 2nd in stage 2, 6.4 running average, but on lap 260 while in 4th, crashed during a restart. 2021, if you go back to prior to the next-gen car. So it's been rough for him, obviously, with the finishes of the next-gen car, but it's not been bad for him as far as how he's run. He's been really freaking good. The finishes just haven't been there. Prior to the next-gen car, 2021 in the fall race, 4th place, and then 2021 in the spring, the display of domination. Swept the stages, led 248 laps, had a perfect total speed ranking for iFantasy Race. And then also in his impressive fact, I guess, of the week or whatever here, since 2020 at Darlington, despite having 5 asterisk mark results over the last 8 races, he still has the second best driver rating, second best average running position, and he's average leading the most laps per race at 75.8. So you don't just look at the scoreboard and say, well, he hasn't finished well here. Now, I can see how, like you did earlier, you make the case of, well, he's not able to finish here, right? And so I could see taking against that in the head-to-head. So might not be bad to place both these bets, right? You bet him to win, but you also bet Reddick to beat him because, well, if he doesn't do it, then here you go. So love Martin Truex Jr. at 7-1. I already gave out Elliott at 16-1. And then Rod going to call my shot here. Noah Gragson gets it done. He's the first guy to get Ford back into victory lane. He does it this weekend at Darlington in that number 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. 50-1. He's really, really impressed me here lately and a lot. You're getting a really big number on him. I like it. So give me some Noah Gragson to win this one at 50-1.
I mean, I think a top 10, but I don't know about I'm feeling a Noah Gragson win. I think that may take the place of not the broccoli, but what's the stuff that you'll eat some, but you don't want to eat a lot because it's good for a couple of bites, and then you're like, nah.
I like to eat a lot of everything. I like to eat a lot of everything, Rod.
Boy, forgive Cody's puberty.
Sorry. I'm going through a big voice change here right now, so that's how it goes. But,
well, that's what you get for screaming your third base.
Yeah, I know. And we've got games tonight and tomorrow night too, so you have to try and step it back and save the voice a little. JDK saying had to step out for a bit, but it's KFB week according to him. Brian likes Blaney over Gibbs on Bovada, -110. Says, let's have a Marty party. I like it, a Marty party. Boji Joe wants to know who's more due, MTJ or Chase. I mean, Chase won recently, but Chase has been running better. And then another point I didn't make on Truex too, like really good at Kansas last week, especially near the end of the race. He maybe wins that race if Denny Hamlin runs out of fuel. And then if Larson and Buescher really take each other out, he's sitting right there to win as well. So Boji Joe said copyright infringement. That's probably when I was reading all of Ryan's stuff at iFantasy Race there. So, and then apparently I sound like Marty McFly as well. So that's cool. Great for the podcast, I'm sure.
All right. I'm going to, I couldn't pick one. I mean, honestly, it was so tough. Because Truex would have been probably the one that I would have grabbed. But I left this blocks blank because I was like, I don't even know. So I just said Byron could repeat here in the spring. He won last spring. He's 8-1. And really, I think that's what kind of drew me to this, and the fact that he's still 8-1, given the fact that he has 3 wins already this season. Right. I mean, I know that one of them was on a road course and that one of them was in a super speedway. But the other one was at Martinsville. He also finished 3rd at Texas. He finished 10th in Las Vegas. So look, William Byron 7th at Richmond as well. William Byron's damn good. And when you look at the name that is on top of just about every speed rankings chart that iFantasy has to put out, it's William Byron. He is first in total speed rankings here at Darlington in the next gen era. He is first in the next gen speed rankings heat chart. He is first in all sorts of categories. He's 4th overall though in the total speed rankings to date. So, I mean, he's still top 4 up there, considering the fact that he's had sort of a spot work season outside of the 3 wins, right? But on this track in particular, he is fast as all get out. And like I said, he won that spring race. It wasn't necessarily that he had the fastest car all day. No, that pretty much belonged to Martin Truex Jr., but he was in the right place at the right time. He only had to lead 7 laps in order to win that race in the spring of last year. But he got it done when he needed to. He was 2nd at the end of stage 2. He was 4th at the end of stage 4, or I'm sorry, 2nd at the end of stage 1, 4th at the end of stage 2. A lot of numbers there. But again, if there's anybody that can get it done and anybody that's waiting around in the weeds, it's another Hendrick car. It's William Byron. Still 8-1, I think, is a good price for a guy that's done this already. I figured he'd be somewhere in the plus 500 range, right?
Especially as defending race winner, yeah, you would think I would have thought he would be shorter for sure.
Yeah. So again, because of the fact that that he's a little bit longer, we're on William Byron 8-1. Let's see, King 601 saying tie 22-1, worth putting something money on in his opinion. I don't know. Again, Ty Gibbs.
He might be biased a little, but I'm gonna hate to miss out on it when it happens, Rod, because it's gonna happen and it's probably gonna be soon. I considered it. I kind of went back and forth. I was maybe gonna do it, but I couldn't pull the trigger. But it's not a bad bet at all. And 22-1 again, like that's why you like Gregson at 50-1, right? Like if Ty's at that number, I'm for sure taking him because you get that bigger number on a guy that can get it done. He's starting to creep back up a little bit, right? Because there were a couple of weeks where his number was real small, and now it's pushing back up there again. So if you want to bet it, it's definitely not a bad thing to do at all. So David agreeing with me. Got on Gregson 60-1 early. Also took his top 4, top 5. Loved it. Looked really good in his Xfinity days here. And yeah, that was kind of the point I made on him earlier was fucking own this track in Xfinity. So looked really good. And then Boji Joe agreeing with you. Byron races the track. Nice pick, Rod. Good job, Rod.
Thank you very much. I will pat myself on the back later. But for now, I'm going to use that hand to grab my pen and paper, as you should too, as we go over these bets for this Goodyear 400. And of course, if you're on YouTube, make sure you check out the graphic that will help you along as well. Cody started you out with Chris Buescher under 13.5 at plus 100 over on Caesars. I know the graphic reflects the old price, but we did some shopping as we were on here. So make sure you grab that at plus 100. I started you out with Michael McDowell over 20.5 at minus 115. Cody gave you William Byron under 6.5 finishing position at minus 115. I said Tyler Reddick would finish better than Martin Truex Jr. at plus 105. Cody gave you Alex Bowman as a top 10 car at plus 160. I added Eric Jones coming back from a broken back, muscling his way through a la AJ Allmendinger with no cold suit, with no power steering, still able to get a good finish. Eric Jones powering through for a top 10 finish at plus 120. Cody gave you Noah Gragson as a top 10 car at plus 225. I said both Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney would finish inside of the top 10 together at plus 320. Cody gave you the Elliott car lift, the top 5 at plus 250, the top 3 at plus 500, top Chevy at plus 650, and to win 16-1. I said that the winner of stage 1 would win this race at plus 240. Cody gave you Martin Truex Jr. at 7-1, Noah Gragson at 15-1, also to win this race. I said grab William Byron at plus 800 before that number dips down somewhere where you don't want to bet it. Those are the picks for the Goodyear 400.
I love it. King wants to know chances Logano missing the playoffs, having a rough year so far. You'll love this, King. I have, from our friends over at Cut, one of the season-long bets we had put out there, I have Ty Gibbs to finish better in the final standings than Joey Logano at plus 250. So, it's still early. We got a long ways to go, but I'm feeling pretty good about that so far. He is 18th right now in the playoff standings. So he is on the outside looking in. I mean, I would think he probably gets there. You've got Iowa coming up, which is going to be a track where he's probably going to have a good chance to win. He's got some other spots where he could win. He honestly has been very good. He's been one of the better drivers lately at Darlington, but his numbers aren't wonderful. His outright's kind of up there. I know some people in the Discord wanted to grab that, and that's fine. I don't think that's a bad bet. But he's the hardest driver to predict, Rod. So I don't know. But, that's how it goes. So, and yeah, Brian also, all the shopping for Larson, only for Larson and Hamlin to win again. Starting to feel like 2020 when Harvick and Denny torched the field almost every week. Or 2018 where it was the big three, right? And it was it Harvick, Truex, and Busch that year, I think. And one of the three won, I think it was 2/3 or 3/4 of the races. It was a crazy number of races that they dominated. So we'll see. I don't know if it's going to keep going that way. I mean, really, if you look back over the last couple of weeks, we've had a couple of different winners with Talladega in there, with Texas in there as well. So, yeah, there's still some other guys who have chances to win these races, I think.
Although, Brian, I'm really feeling you on that one. All of this just to get torched again by one of these guys, because I kept coming back to Larson, but I was like, it's so hard to repeat. I kept wanting to go back to Hamlin, and I was like, but Hamlin's been doing so well that I don't know that he can win this. I know that, but the number's not good. So, yeah, it's definitely not fun. Robert checking in saying, what's up, guys? Here just in time in Disney World. Can't bet right now. You give your money to Mickey. You tell him to put it all on MJT.
Is Disney World the one that's in California, Rod?
No, Disneyland is the one that's
okay. So, well, then good, because that means you're in Florida, Robert. Hard Rock is legal in Florida. Download Hard Rock Sportsbook. You can bet on there. So you can bet, and they've actually had some pretty solid stuff lately. I know we haven't always given them out a ton, but I know there's a lot of people that are betting, and I think they've had some good stuff. So I was trying to pull it up here real quick just to see. I don't know how their early week selection is. Maybe it's more of a later on in the season or in the week type of thing. But they got a full slate. So yeah, go ahead and download Hard Rock and get in on that, Robert. So you don't have to miss out. Don't worry.
Beautiful stuff. Like I said, if nothing else, Mickey, I'm sure Goofy would take a couple of those bets for you as well. I know that Pluto's a good bookie, so you might want to hit him up as well. All right. That is it for the Goodyear 400 from the Darlington Raceway. Going to be having fun with our throwback weekends. Let's go and have some fun placing these bets. Again, this is a buffet. Take what you'd like, but leave the rest for the others. All I'm telling you is don't load up your plate if you don't plan on eating at all, because we hate it when you waste. But yeah, have some fun and load up those cards, and hopefully we get you guys some return on your investment this weekend.
Again, just here so I don't get fined.
Gotta love you. All right, Cody, as we trickle off into the sunset today, let everyone know where they can find you to continue loading up your plate with broccoli.
Yes, follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. And make sure you tune in the rest of the week. If you're listening to this episode, you're missing out on a lot of good stuff. Xfinity's back. Trucks are back. We've got DFS show later in the week. Oh, it's going to be great, Rod. Going to be a fun weekend, or week and weekend. Good weekend of racing. Darlington, all three on tap. Super excited for this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. So tune back in tomorrow and see where I go with my throwback outfit of the day for Xfinity. So we'll be back tomorrow, Rod. And yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the about everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, whether it is in between media, all that good stuff. And of course, check out the F1 Gambling Podcast later as we recap a beautiful race in Miami. And yeah, we'll have some fun there. So till tomorrow, everyone, as we start to look toward the next race on the slate, let's go racing and let it ride.